Many consider Jeff Bezos the world's richest person. Many billionaires and trillionaires preceded him. It's difficult to estimate the wealth of someone born in the 1400s or who owned a kingdom, but a list can be compiled using the opinions of several experts. Today we'll look at the top 10 richest people of history and how they got there. And why? William the Conqueror. 230 billion. When your name is Chancellor, you have many assets. William the Conqueror, born in 1028, became England's first Norman king. His fortune reached 230 billion, half of Jeff Bezos' fortune. How? So rich. In England, his name gives it away. In his heyday, William pillaged everyone. In 1066, he conquered England, causing 100,000 deaths. He changed England after becoming king. Because of him, England banned slavery and spoke Frankish. English-speaking during his wealth, he built over 500 castles in England and Wales and became one of England's largest landowners. When he died in 1087, his clothes and jewelry were stripped from his body. Naked, Osmanov Khan. 236 billion. Osmanov Khan, one of our most recent billionaires, was featured on the cover of Time magazine in 1937 as the world's richest person. How rich was he? Modern experts estimate his wealth at $230 billion, but the Guinness Book of World Records estimated $750 billion. We'll have to trust the experts. Osmanov lived a life few could imagine. He always had the fifth largest polished diamond in the world, the Jacob diamond. Osmanov used the precious diamond as a paperweight, not his only jewel. He owned the knee arms jewels, passed down from ruler to ruler. 173 jewels, including 2,000 carats worth of emeralds, dozens of pearls, studded necklaces, buckles, earrings, crowns, armbands, and the satellite. 465 pearl necklace. The jewels are worth $2 billion, a fraction of his fortune. Despite his wealth, massive palace, 50 Rolls-Royces, and 300 servants, Osman didn't always reflect it. He wore the same hat for decades. He ate on tin plates and begged guests to bomb a cigarette. He knitted his own socks. In his room, he introduced electricity, planes, and trains. He donated much of his wealth to Indian schools and temples. Nikolai Romanov. 300 million. The Romanovs are Russia's best-known wealthy family. Their wealth contributed to their massacre. Romanov, the last Russian Tsar, had $300 billion. Modern historians consider him a weak, incompetent leader. Not just historians agreed. Nikolai reportedly said, "I'm not a Tsar, never did. I'm clueless." Despite being incompetent and unwilling to rule, he enjoyed his spoils. He made 200,000 RUS a year and had 20,000 RUS for clothes and other items. He regularly spent $150,000 more than $20,000, though. Factory workers made 500 rubles a year, and generals made 5,000. He spent 40 times the average worker's salary. What did he buy? Whatever he wanted, he splurged. 20,000 rubles for custom-made military uniforms. His wife also shopped. She spent 40,000 on jewelry. Nikolai spent money on events. It was his coronation. 24 tons of silver and gold tableware were used for Russia's most expensive coronation. 1,200 singers serenaded the couple. He threw parties for himself and his country. On the 300th anniversary of the dynasty, he pardoned all civil debts and made 1.5 million gold, silver, and bronze medals. He also mass-produced stamps, anchored chips, and mugs. Everyone got expensive goodie bags. He enjoyed expensive meals and trips. His 55-person kitchen offered 3 meal tiers: easy, 4-course breakfast, 5-course lunch, and 4-course dinner. Leftovers were served as delicacies at local restaurants. He often went hunting. 50 crew members, including painters, were brought to make the hunt as luxurious as possible. His hunting budget equaled 100 school teachers' salaries. Andrew Carnegie's $309 billion is also extravagant. Carnegie's probably come to mind when you think of wealthy American families. Andrew Carnegie went from changing thread spools to being worth $309 billion. He began as a telegraph messenger. He became Pennsylvania Railroad's West Division superintendent through hard work and detail. At 24, his bosses taught him about business and investing, which led him to invest in the railroad industry as it boomed. After the Civil War, Carnegie started Keystone Bridge Work and Union Iron Works. He started Carnegie Steel, which he sold to J.P. Morgan for $13 billion. His wealth was vast, but he used it in a modern way. He authored Gospel of Wealth, the wealthy's social responsibility. He practiced his famous quote, "The rich man dies disgraced." Upon his death, he gave away most of his $4.8 billion in donations. He left a small sum to his family and large amounts to his housekeeper, nurse, maidservant, and butler. Jacob Fogger. 400 billion Jacob Fogger. Jacob Fogger was known as Jacob the Rich and had a $400 billion fortune. Jacob's parents traded textiles with Italy in the 1400s. Jacob mined quicksilver, copper, and cinnabar when he was old enough. He was good at investing and diversified his wealth, which worked out well for him. When he was successful, he lent the Vatican money. His money built the Sistine Chapel and other Vatican buildings. In a time of extreme wealth in Italy, he spent his money on homes, art, and fine clothing. His wife enjoyed. He once bought his wife 40,000 guilders in jewelry. His 4-story home was a modern Renaissance structure. Every room had fountains and fireplaces. He was generous, invested. First low-income housing program FINITE. 52 homes housed families in difficult situations. The yearly rent was 1 guilda, but residents had to pray for the Foggers 3 times a day. FINITE still supports residents. 1 guilder per year or 88 cents. No word on whether the family still needs prayer. However, John D. Rockefeller, 400 billion, Jeff. He's the richest American right now, but he has a ways to go to beat the richest American ever. John D. Rockefeller should be recognizable. Oil tycoon had $400 billion. After he founded Standard Oil in 1870, its value skyrocketed. Standard Oil once controlled 90% of U.S. oil. His wealth was 2% of the national economy. His cash, Rockefeller lived well. He owned U.S. homes. He owned Kai, a 40-room hotel with NYC views. The 6-year-long project featured Chinese ceramics and 20th-century art. Kai Home was only the start. The home was on Pocantico Estate. The 3,510-acre estate had 75.70 roads and a 9-hole golf course, outdoor pools, tennis courts, a bowling alley, billiard halls, farm, and gardens. As he aged, Rockefeller stepped up his philanthropy. His annual charitable giving was 10%. 1 bar. The first had a $500 billion empire in the 1500s. Some estimates put his worth higher. As Genghis Khan's descendant, he ruled and conquered. He worked hard from the moment he took the throne to expand the Mughal Empire, tripling its size. India to Afghanistan's north. His religious tolerance was rare at the time. Many of his advisors and city leaders were Hindu. He united the 2 religions and allowed people to choose. He translated Hindu literature and attended Hindu festivals. His wealth is unknown, but he had a lot. His empire once controlled 25% of global GDP. His palace had rare furniture, carvings, and paintings. Augustus Caesar. Augustus Caesar's heir was richer than Julius. He's history's only trillionaire. 5th of the Roman Empire's wealth, which accounted for 30% of the world's GDP. Most experts agree his wealth was $4.3 trillion. As emperor, he inherited a large fortune. He inherited 75% of Julius' wealth, though no one knows how much. Julius gave 300 cities to every Roman citizen upon his death. 300 cities was 4 months' wages at the time, but it barely affected him. Not only Julius gave Augustus money, several wealthy families left, stayed to the emperor to protect their children politically. He doubles the Roman Empire during his 40-year reign. He founded an army, police, fire, a courier system, and roads, modernizing Rome. He lived in a palace now called House of Augusta, had art and weapon rooms. After his death, mosaics and frescoes covered every floor and wall. He once said, "I found Rome of clay, marble's yours." His rule brought peace and prosperity to the empire for 200 years. Song 2, the second richest person in history, is one of our most mysterious. Song Emperor Shang ruled 1067 to 1085. He's lucky. During China's prosperous era, they were the world's best bronze makers, and farmers were granted ownership. Rice production skyrocketed, making them a commercial superpower. Inventions included gunpowder printing and magnetic compasses. The Song Dynasty created the world's first paper money and navy. The navy protected their trade route with innovative emperor. 30% of global GDP, centralized economy. Qiong ruled the money. His wealth is vast, it's trillions, but experts can't say how much. He formed an increased tax collection hundreds of years before European governments. Even so, Xie was generous. He pioneered the modern welfare system. His policies helped unemployed, homeless, and peasants. The world's richest person may be someone you've never heard of, but you won't forget him. Mansa Musa's wealth was enormous. Modern historians can't imagine how much he had. He rode zebras across Africa, carrying thousands of pounds of gold as spare change. When his predecessor disappeared while trying to find the end of the Atlantic Ocean, he became ruler of Mali. His predecessor would have had it great if he had just stayed on land. Europe struggled under Mansa Musa. Great famine, civil war, and Black Death brought Europe's kingdoms to their knees. She was doing great. It produced the most gold and salt at the time. Mansa Musa took 24. In his first few years, they surrounded districts. Even in Egypt and the Middle East, he remained isolated. Both were unknown. When Mansa Musa became a Muslim, everything changed. His religion required a pilgrimage, but he didn't have to rough it. His Mecca journey was 4,000, not alone. Thousands of soldiers, slaves, and heralds accompanied him. Everyone carried gold staffs and wore Persian silk. The camels and horses carried gold. As he traveled through Africa, 80 camels carried 50 to 300 pounds each. Everyone saw him. He spent frivolously in cities and gave gold. The Sultan ordered him to visit his palace when he approached Cairo al-Nair. Mansa Musa initially refused al-Nair's request to kiss his feet, causing some tension. Respectful gesture at the time. Al-Sir eventually let him stay the night. By the time he left Cairo, the streets were covered in gold and the people were wealthy. Giving away the fortune proved difficult. His gifts devalued metal, and Cairo, Medina, and Mecca took 12 years to recover financially. He funded a mosque on his way to Mecca. Fridays. After arriving in Mecca, he spent days studying and praying. When he returned home, he began building palaces, mosques, and universities. His empire included the center and University Sanko Rasa. The university had 1 million manuscripts, rivaling Alexandria's library. Mali's empire fell after Mansa Musa's death. Civil war weakened the country's tradability. European cities invaded Massachusetts in the 1600s to exploit its resources. The rest is history. Voila! Jeff Bezos may be the richest person in history. Comment below. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. Enable post alerts. I'm FINITE. See you until next time.